I've also talked too about the incredible way that we've been trained to think in a linear fashion, which is really an unnatural way of looking at things. Animals think from all kinds of directions, literally. And I've talked about it before here, if I get a tree down and the local fox is coming along, and that path that he normally follows has a tree down, he'll sit and study it from different angles before he decides to pass by. If it was a human being, we'd just say, well, there are trees down, you go right up to it and try and move it or cut it or something, without checking anything else out. For an animal, they must think from different directions for its own personal survival. We've been trained, we don't really need that because experts are always working things for us. We don't have to think too much about anything. Just sit back and be happy. Back with more after this break. Hi folks, I'm Alan Watt and this is Cutting Through the Matrix. I've mentioned often about how we're given this linear pattern of thinking where things just go together like following a trail of cheese, and we come to the mousetrap at the end and we think that's all there is to it. That's how we're trained to think. When you get into the minds of the big boys who run the world, being the good psychopaths they are, they think from all kinds of directions, all kinds of ploys, things you'd never dream of. They could take any situation and see how to make a profit out of it, or to how to turn it to their advantage. Any situation at all. The directions that you have to be born with a technique like this. You can't just learn it. You're born with it. And that's what they say psychopaths actually are. They're born with psychopathy. But unfortunately, the normal folk can't think that way. We don't see the cons coming. And we literally are trained from childhood into growing up thinking that those in charge, those who have somehow worked up to the top positions of authority in government, are somehow more altruistic and more honest and better than ourselves. Nothing can be further from the truth. Because psychopaths are the ones who claw their way up. Psychopaths need the power. They have a craving for power over other people. And they have a craving for status. Incredible craving for status. And they like people calling them sir or bowing to them and all that kind of stuff. They really, really get off on this. And who knows, maybe that's a natural order. I've often wondered that in society down through the centuries. If the big man in a tribe ends up conquering the tribe next door and becomes the hero and starts to get treated like royalty, and his offsprings are the same, then his offsprings marry the enemy's daughter. You get two basically aggressive types marrying each other, the ones who got to the top within their own tribes and have psychopathic traits that they then pass on to their own children, and then they rule all the rest of the people beneath them. That seems to be the way in society. And getting back to this respectability factor, we should know by now that there's more criminality going around the world in suits and ties, very expensive suits and ties, as opposed to street crime. And it's an area that's seldom touched. It's almost a taboo area for the police because politics are definitely involved in it. And white-collar crime, regardless of the billions, some of them will rip off the public, generally ends them, if they get caught at all and they get sentenced, they get put to some kind of halfway house where they can play golf, and they're only in for a few months, and that's it, over and done with. It's ridiculous, but that's the reality. And what they'll say in court is, well, they didn't actually physically hurt someone. Now, if they clean the banks out and people lose their homes and maybe commit suicide or starve to death, technically within the legal system, the person who caused it didn't kill them. That was a consequence of it that was out of their hands. That's how they'd phrase it, you see, in the legal system. So they get very, very little punitive punishment whatsoever. And we're taught again through all the ads on television, which gives us a fake impression of medicine, the police, everything else. Never mind all the dramas they give you. It's all propaganda. We get a fake idea of what they're really all about. You would think something to do with the medical industry is there to help you. Because that's what all the propaganda tells you. That's what every ad on television tells you. That's what every ad for a new product tells you. Smiling faces, white coats with a stethoscope round the neck, and doctor recommends it, and they wouldn't do anything to hurt you, would they? Their job is pure profit. That's their job. Pure profit for the drug companies. This article here is from the 15th of January. It says, breaking news, Johnson & Johnson facing federal suit for paying kickbacks to nursing homes. Now, nursing homes now are like chain stores, and there's a lot of money involved in them. Big money. It says, news is breaking today that the United States government has slapped a suit against Johnson & Johnson and two of its subsidiaries for allegedly paying kickbacks to nursing homes in an effort to boost sales for a new antipsychotic drug. You know what they do when they get them in these homes? They put them on antipsychotic drugs where they sit and drool in a chair they can't get out of, by the way. That way they're not walking around. It takes fewer staff to take care of them, so it's bigger profits for the companies in the nursing homes. It says J&J has not spoken publicly on the matter as of yet, although they're expected to do so later today. The news of the U.S. suit against Johnson & Johnson comes on the same day it is being reported that the company is broadening its voluntary recall of certain over-the-counter medications that have a musty or moldy odor. From the Wall Street Journal story on the federal suit against Johnson & Johnson, it says federal prosecutors allege that Johnson & Johnson paid one of the nation's largest pharmacies serving nursing homes tens of millions of dollars in kickbacks to increase sales of drugs, including blockbuster antipsychotic Risperol. A press release issued a short time ago provides even more detail on the kickbacks that Johnson & Johnson is alleged to have paid. It says the United States has filed a civil False Claims Act complaint against drug manufacturer J&J of New Brunswick, New Jersey, and two of its subsidiaries, Ortho McNeil Johnson Pharmaceuticals, Inc., and Johnson & Johnson Healthcare Systems, Inc. The Justice Department announced today the complaint alleges that these companies paid millions of dollars in kickbacks to Omnicare Incorporated, the nation's largest pharmacy that specializes in dispensing drugs to nursing home patients. In November 2009, the United States, numerous states and Omnicare entered into a $98 million settlement agreement that, among other things, resolved Omnicare's civil liability under the False Claim Act for taking kickbacks from J&J. It's quite astonishing. This is quite common, this kind of stuff, isn't it? It says kickbacks in the nursing home pharmacy context are particularly nefarious because they can result in excessive prescribing of strong drugs to patients who have little or no control over the medical care they are receiving. U.S. Attorney Carmen Ortiz said in a statement, nursing home doctors should be able to rely on the integrity, here they go again, integrity in the pharma industry, of the recommendations they receive from pharmacists, and those recommendations should not be a product of money that a drug company is paying to the pharmacy. This is across the board, you know, this kind of natural corruption. It's commonplace. They're all at it. All the big companies are at it. Never mind the fact now that every country in the world that bought all the millions and millions of doses of the useless swine flu vaccine are desperately trying to give them away to any country that will take them, because they don't want to be left with all these multitudes, these mountains of syringes, because it doesn't look too good on them for the next time. But that's the way it is, isn't it? The con men, the psychopaths, run the world. And they can whip us up into a frenzy over global cooling or global warming or plagues or whatever else they want. And they always seem to get their way because the politicians always go along with them. What do the politicians have in common with the big boys? Psychopaths, you see. They do recognize each other, and they see no problem in making deals with each other. Quite something.